Welcome to Iron, and this
is Unscripted.
Completely. And as you've seen before, this is where we basically take a topic that's been put inside of a cup by our wives, and we have no idea what we're going to be getting. So, do the honors, my friend.
Well, normally you hold up the cup.
Oh, yeah?
You get the honors this time.
I thought you were. What?
I get to hold it up,
Oh!
and you get to pick it.
Okay. See? Okay.
That's how unscripted
That's
this
how
is.
Unscripted this is. I have one. Man, I hate this. I mean, we say it every time. It's like I'm going, what are we going to get?
Oh, drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. And it says Deliverance.
Okay, Deliverance.
So that's our topic.
All
right.
Isn't it the... No, that's the movie, Deliverance. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, different Deliverance.
Yeah.
So now we're going to take 5 minutes.
5 at least.
And only 5. I'm going to hold you right to it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right, we'll see you soon.
In 5. Okay, we're back.
We're here.
What'd you get?
Well, we're here. All right.
Okay.
It's something. Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay.
No, I'll start. No, go ahead. I'm just joking.
Okay, deliverance. I start to think about the word.
Okay.
Deliver, delivered, delivery,
Mm-hmm.
deliverance, and what that really means. What the word itself is.
Correct.
And our concept of it, and has it changed over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
I was thinking how deliverance is, in my mind, equated to salvation.
Okay.
Because when you're delivered, you are saved and not light.
Okay.
So, because otherwise, what are you delivered from? Something you need to be delivered from. Therefore, you're saved from that. That's I was kind of going, I see it, and I'm just kind of like blending it all together, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, did you happen to look up delivery in our 5 nanoseconds of
Nanoseconds.
time? Yeah.
Yeah, deliverance is, I was drawn immediately to the Psalms.
Oh.
And Psalms 3:8, from Yahweh comes deliverance. May your blessings be on your people. Selah. And then Psalm 33:17, a horse is vain hope for deliverance. Despite all its great strength, it cannot save. See the deliverance and the save thing there. And so we can put our hope in man, hope in, whatever things here of earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's meaningless if it's not put in the hopes of Yahweh.
Okay, so are we delivered away from something to something? Is it what's the process?
Great question.
Am I running away or am I being drawn to something? Where are you at on that?
Yes, because you're drawn by Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Yahweh draws a man, he can't be saved.
Mm-hmm.
So we're drawn by him, but we're also running to him from our sin. But
Okay.
but that's a choice.
It is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess where I'm going with it is motivation.
Okay.
What if, and I know it's impossible to disconnect, but what if we take eternity out of the picture? Because that's the golden pot at the end of the bow, right?
Right.
So suspend disbelief, pull that away. Would we still be motivated to do what we're supposed to do regardless of the outcome?
I'm thinking of the verse that says that if there was no resurrection, we would be the saddest of all men. I think it's in 1 Corinthians 15, if I'm not mistaken. But it's like, now I'll never forget being in a child, teenager, whatever, hearing a pastor once saying, we get all this and heaven. You know what I'm saying? Type thing. And mind you, I don't see us going to heaven per se in eternity as far as that goes, because the righteous inherit the earth. Mm-hmm. But that being said, Yahweh said, it's in Deuteronomy 11:26-28, that I set before you blessings and a curse. So the blessings are if you obey. So if we obey, we are being blessed.
Dave, are you saying that obedience is salvation?
No, obedience is blessing.
Oh, but if you're blessed, then maybe I misunderstood, but then you are blessed with eternity?
Yeah, that too.
Okay. So it's not an either or.
Well, faith without works is
Dead.
So you can have all the faith in the world you want.
Yeah.
James 2 discusses it.
Mm-hmm.
a man is not saved by faith alone. James says that. That's the New Testament. So therefore, our faith is proven by our works. So therefore, you can say you have all the faith you want, but if you're not living it, I think that's something else we forget. Faith, we think of faith as far as what you believe, but faith back then, they would ask you, well, what faith are you?
Yeah.
Meaning what are you pursuing? What do you live out? What do you know what I'm saying? What's your religion?
Religion.
Right.
But I struggle with that, the two terms.
I know.
Understandably.
All right.
Is it an institution by man or is it true faith? So,
exactly.
Yeah. So Revelation also talks about we're judged by works.
True that too. Our deeds.
Our deeds, Also, I'm seeing the definition of salvation. First occurrence I saw of deliver is in Bereshit or Genesis 32:11. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, because he's fearing.
Correct.
Lest to come in, smite him.
Right.
And then he'd be smote.
Right.
So that deliver there is different than in different verses, which there are different Hebrew words, I'm saying, for the term deliver. And that's almost an escape, which is why I went down the path of motivation. Hey, I want to be delivered. That is a form of salvation, not capital S, maybe salvation.
Right.
But I'm delivered. I've escaped from this thing that's going to happen to me.
And what's going to happen? I mean, we're all faced with different situations that we need deliverance from. I mean, all kinds of situations. Things that are self-inflicted. Things that are out of our control.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is deliverance comes from Him, regardless of what we are facing. Does that make sense?
It does.
As I was looking at it, I'm going, oh my goodness, this is so funny because it's part of the Lord's Prayer. And deliver us from evil. Right. The evil one, some verses say.
Sure.
But the point is to pray for deliverance. Because, and now I'm thinking of, this just hit me, when Peter is in front of Yeshua and Yeshua says, look, Satan has asked to sift you.
Sift.
Right. But I prayed for your deliverance. I prayed for you. That should let us know we're in spiritual warfare every day. The enemy is constantly asking to sift us. Well, I assume, but we know that there's a war going on all around us that we don't see.
Well, I think that would depend on if we are being effective, how sifted we are.
True. I'm with you. Yeah.
So another occurrence of delivery, another word for that could be, and I think I've heard you say it already, salvation. Okay. And so the first term that first time I can see in Hebrew that salvation is used interchangeably with deliverance is in Bereshit or Genesis 49:18. And that's where you're going to? Yeah. And what's that Hebrew word? Yeshua.
Nice.
So there's a really important tie-in the way I see it. And I look back at my previous understanding or misunderstanding or lack of understanding of what I was going to say our Messiah, but I don't personally believe he's our Messiah because that's anointed one. I didn't anoint him.
I'm with you.
The Father's anointed one.
Right.
He's my salvation.
Yes.
So I struggle and I stop on that.
I see where you're coming from on that. I can see that.
So that was part of my journey in going, understanding maybe his original name compared to what we've turned it into over the millennium, and how it tied to the Father's name. And so those aspects really brought a lot more meaning to me personally. Not that I'm going to say, Steve, you got the name wrong. I mean, no, come on. We all got it wrong probably, right?
Right.
But as close as I can get, I want to be delivered from my past misunderstandings into better understanding.
And that's a daily thing.
That's by breath.
Right. And I'm glad that came out because we all, and this is a phrase our fellowship knows I say all the time.
Yeah.
We all have something right. We all have something wrong. But the problem is we're so convinced on our right that we can't see that we actually could have something wrong. And we'll say, oh, I know I got something wrong. But then you say, well, what about this? You go, oh, no, I ain't got that wrong. What about this? Oh, no, I ain't got that wrong either. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so can we be delivered from that mindset? Part of that's humility.
Absolutely.
I think part of that, well, maybe most of it is. Part of that's pride. And I think you can be prideful and still humble to a degree. Right?
Yeah. I think I don't know why I've said this before. I know I've said it before, but a lot of times the Father will give something to someone. Okay. Not because they're anything special, because where they're at, they're called for it. Okay.
Yeah.
In a second, I mean, they know it's from the Father. And I'm not debating it. But the problem is, I've seen with many people at times, and I've been there too. So I think we're all guilty of this at one point or another, is that when we see the Father's given us something, well, then that means we're right on everything else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that means that justifies...
By association.
Yeah, association, right. And so while I can see what they're saying, they vindicate it as like, well, I'm right on everything else, therefore. You know, and that's a dangerous place to be for any of us and all of us. And that's where I go to the element, we need deliverance from ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if that's, you know.
Maybe it's we need deliverance from everything but from Yah.
Yeah. Well, because he's the only one who can deliver. So how can you need deliverance from him when he's the one who delivers us? But the thing is, I think we have to realize the foundation of deliverance is humility. Because unless we first humble ourselves to come to him, will there be deliverance? We have to humble ourselves.
Interesting.
You know, so it all starts with what you were saying, the humility, and it's a pride thing, with disagreeing on different points. Well, that humility is needed to come to him. Yeah. And who's going to come to him unless they humble themselves to say they need him? Right. You know, so the deliverance is founded on us first humbling ourselves to say, I need a deliverer. Because we all look at ourselves, oh, I don't need this, or I can do that. And man, we're all guilty of that on something, you know. And I know with me, I remember when we first started in ministry, it was a humble thing for me. You know, I had a job, I had this, I'm providing for, and all of a sudden, that's all gone. I'm relying on people. That was a humble feeling. Because now I can't do anything for me. I'm making the teachings the best I can. I'm doing this and the other, but I am totally 100% reliant on people. And it's not something I can do. And it's got to be the hand of the Father touching someone's heart to say, hey, give them something, or whatever the case could be. That was humbling for me. But we all have something we have to be humbled in. But if we don't humble ourselves, can we have salvation? Can we have deliverance if we don't first admit that we need it?
Because if we've got that approach, then deliverance is in our own hands. What's the first command of the 10 that you break before you break all the others? Now, I'm not saying it's a steadfast rule, but it seems to be. You don't covet. Why? Because you want to be like Elohim. You want to be the deliverer. You want that person has you steal. You know, I don't want to lose face. You give a false testimony. You murder. Everything has to do with me. Right. And so coveting seems to be at the top of the list, and that's
it's mentioned last.
Interesting. Yeah, good point.
You know.
Well, because that's what we remember, right?
It's
you
true.
go through all these things, and the last thing you got, or the most significant, you remember.
Right.
Maybe that's why the Shabbat gets forgotten so much. It's just kind of in the middle.
That's true. Yeah. Yep.
You know.
When I was, the first will be last will be first. Totally irrelevant, but it kind of, came into my thought there. Yeah. But interesting. Yeah, and it goes back to pride. Coveting, I want. It's all about me. It makes me think of Isaiah 14, where the enemy is saying, I will listen to the throne. I will be like the Most High. It's 5 times she says, I will. Yeah. And it's all about him. And so whenever it's all when we start making it all about us, we are following the example of the one who rejected Yahweh, who rebelled, the ultimate rebellion. That's who we're following. And when we say when it's all about us, and that's scary.
Oh, it's yeah. It's fear and trembling goes right back to that. Well, reminded me of is when you talk about Isaiah or Yeshayahu, is not only the explicit but the implicit ones. And I'll go back to 9/11,
Okay.
the Twin Towers, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And there were, and it's recorded. You can look it up on YouTube, online, whatever. Daschle at the time was a Speaker of the House, invoked Isaiah 9, 10, 11 right in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, interesting. 9/11, Isaiah 9/11. So you look at that, and it says, the bricks have fallen down, but we rebuild with hewn stones. We.
Right.
The sycamores are cut down, but we replace them with cedars. They were quoting those verses, not realizing
I remember that.
it's there. It's what it's talking about here is the arrogance
Yes.
of Israel.
What we will do.
Exactly. And it's more subtle than the, we're going to rebuild. Okay, that makes good sense. We want to rebuild. But it's not like Yahweh's going to help us rebuild.
Right.
No, we're going to do it.
Right.
And there's ongoing issues from that
Mm-hmm.
in the United States, even today,
Yep.
years later.
Yep. You don't really realize how much pride is in our society until you start breaking it down.
How?
Football season's just started, and we were driving home from something the other day, and it was had a football game going on, and you could just hear them. We're the best. We can do. And I'm going. That's the foundation of it, And I get it. It's a game. They're having fun. I got it. But there's so many little subtleties that we hear things, and those they implant little seeds, and we don't really realize how much that can affect us. I think.
So can you be strong and humble and be delivered and be a deliverer?
Absolutely. Well, Yeshua showed the prime example of being the most humble, but yet being the strongest at the same time.
As does Moshe. And he is a type of Yeshua. Yeah, humility is not meekness and, cowering in a corner.
Right. Oh, no. A strong man is the one who controls himself in the midst of wanting to do harm.
Oh, yeah. It's much tougher not to do something and to control yourself than just let those emotions of flesh bleh.
Right. Right. Yep. Agreed.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So we're see like we're getting the element of humility as the foundation of deliverance.
It is. I don't know if it's. Let me think about the quick second. I don't think it's a progression necessarily, and correct me if you think it's different.
Okay.
We got to have humility. We also have to make that choice.
Oh, absolutely.
So if I'm a prideful, arrogant person, but I make the choice, hey, Father, it's your Messiah. I want that. Sure, it's a journey, but do you have to be humble in order to do it, or do you have to? Which one comes first?
Well, when you said that, as I was thinking, you got a prideful person, but then they say, "I need you." Well, that's the moment they turned to humility. They turned to saying, "I need." When you say "I need," you're saying, "I need." You can't provide. You can't do it. Therefore, you're in need of something, someone, a deliverer.
Steve, I need you to go downstairs for me and change the garbage. I mean, that's that's a different kind of "I need." So I think it's the heart of it as well.
True.
Steve, I want deliverance. Give me deliverance.
Right.
So I believe. Now,
want is different than need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm following what you're saying. Yeah, and how many times do we say "I want" or "I need this" when, like, I need a new car?
Yeah.
Well, do you really need, or do you just, what I'm saying? Sorry, and take any object or something and fill in the void for whoever that would apply to.
So then, all right. So for deliverance, then you need to be humble, and that by necessity means they aren't being covetous. You are discerning because you want to be delivered to something as well as away from something. And the away part reminds me in Hebrews. Deliver those throughout life who are held in slavery by fear of death. Or, any time that, like in, was it 1 Corinthians, delivered to Hasatan for destruction.
Correct.
There's a couple of deliveries there I don't want. So,
right.
So when we say deliverance, it isn't, okay, I'm all in. No.
Right.
Where's that train headed?
Yeah, exactly. What tracks are you on?
Yeah.
That's right.
Is it the good train or the bad
right,
train?
Exactly. That's a good point. What tracks you are on is going to be dependent on your attitude and your desire in humility, not desire for pride. That goes back to the I need this. Well, no, you don't need. That's a prideful thing because you want something better or whatever. and the need shows humility. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. It just struck me. If we are truly, as they say, back to your sports analogy, all in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're all into practice. We're all into the game. We're doing the scrimmages. We are reading
Right.
the plays. I mean, we're in the game of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow. If we are all in, I think if you ask people, they'd say, well, I need, let's see, air, water, food. Would we just say, you know what? I just need him.
Right.
He will provide that. I don't need those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My flesh needs those things.
Right.
But how hard am I holding on to this life in light of eternity?
That's right.
That's a tough one.
Well, and there comes in your salvation too. It's like, who gets saved? Those who are holding on to the word,
Yeah.
are holding on to him, and so back to the point, even like Yeshua had said at one point, if your eye causes you to sin, poke it out. Better to enter into eternity with only one eye than two.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what do you want? And are you going to humble yourself? Are you going to let go of this world and hold on to him?
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to do? Where's your salvation at?
Yeah.
And it all comes down to trust. Do we trust him?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a Job question too. How many times? I mean, dude, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. He had to be going through some hard times. And he was still, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Now, granted,
He was waffling at the end. I mean, he was starting to whine.
But he started out stronger than I would even start out. So, I mean,
Yeah.
dude, it's like, wow, there's just so much.
So would you equate saved with salvation with deliverance?
Say it one more time.
Deliverance, salvation, and saved. All the same concept? All the same understanding?
Well, it can be, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily, like we've already had several examples of showing there were some differences that can be applied. But ultimately, I say yes.
Okay, so if I come to you and say, I'm saved, that has an understanding in today's culture.
Mm-hmm. And in that, I see three things.
Okay?
Okay? Because there are verses that will say, we are saved, we are being saved, and yet we will be saved.
Mm-hmm.
So while you can be saved right now, okay, it doesn't mean you will be saved or that you will be saved at the end. And this is a big debate for, I know, some people, but you go to Ezekiel 18, and in fact, my daughter and I were just talking just the other day. In Ezekiel 18, it talks about if an unrighteous man turns from his unrighteousness and starts following into my ways, he says, and mind you, I'm paraphrasing here, he says, he will be saved. But he says, take a righteous man. If he turns from his righteousness and turns to wickedness, he won't be saved.
That kind of blows the once saved, always saved things out of the water, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Unless you view saved as it's already been done. If it's already been done, you've already been judged. Because you can't be saved until you're judged.
Right.
And that's yet to happen.
Right.
In our understanding of time.
Right. And back into the Ezekiel 18, so you have the righteous man first. He starts off righteousness. Well, I would say that at that point, what he's walking in salvation. So he's saved.
Okay.
However, he chose to turn to wickedness. He chose away. So now, well, guess what? Yahweh himself said, he's not saved.
Yeah.
He will not be naked. So that's where you see the verses that will say one can be saved, present tense, being saved, and yet the ultimate, if they stay faithful, they will be saved. But it's all about us staying faithful. So again, the deliverance is, and goes back to the deeds, walking in his ways. You can say you're faithful, you can say you're walking in faith, but if you're not walking in his ways, I'm sorry, he's the judge. I judge fruit. I don't judge eternity. He does. But
it's like the saying, walk the talk.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And so from that standpoint, I want to be a fruitcake.
Right.
I'm going after good fruit here.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. That's right. That's pretty good.
So then in Yah's maybe, and to try to understand it from his perspective, yeah, good luck on that.
Right.
But my current leaning would be that in his position outside of time, if you take that position that he is outside of time,
Correct.
then we are saved. Because and I'm just going to make the assumption, fear and trembling there again, that I've been saved
Right.
in eternity. He's there with me now. I just can't be there now because I'm in the body here. See what I'm saying?
Well, you're deep. Yeah.
Okay. If Yeshua was before the foundations of the earth,
Right.
okay, that's an outside of time thing
Outside
for
of
us.
time.
You know,
You're
it's
right.
just wow.
You're right.
Can you
Well, my whole thing is
pick up what I'm laying down?
He's outside of time.
Right.
He knows the end from the beginning.
Yeah.
So when it comes right down to it, he knows who's already going to be there.
Yes.
But in love, he always hopes that we will continue, to make the right decisions, and that those who are in rejection right now he keeps holding out hope that they will. But even though he knows the end, this is really getting deep, isn't it?
Oh, I know it is.
So, I mean, in all of that, it still comes down to the foundation. We're nothing without him. We have to have him.
Yeah.
And if we don't choose him, you don't have that salvation. You don't have that deliverance.
Right. And it's, people say, well, judge not lest the... Okay, wait a minute. We got to judge behaviors.
That's right.
Seems like a different topic, but okay, I don't know who has and hasn't been through that process of judgment from a salvatory standpoint. I don't even... Somebody says, what do you think? Think they... No, I don't even think about it. No, hush, la, 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 la. Because I don't... And I use this as an example all the time, so forgive me if I've done this before, but Hitler... Bad dude. Really, really bad dude. But the last nanosecond of his life, did he have a conversion? I don't know. That's not up to me to even go there.
But that goes right to the Ezekiel 18. Here's a guy who's lived all of his life wickedness, but yet Yahweh says, if he turns to my righteousness, he's there. There's so many elements that, and then people can say, well, that's not fair. What do you mean that's not fair? And that goes into the element of, I'm reminded of the parable Yeshua gave of the parable of the workers. These guys come to the owner comes early in the morning, and I think it's one denarii or whatever it is, okay? And they're going to work all day. They agreed for one denarii to work all day. And then these other people kept coming in throughout the day. Then half the workers come in towards the latter part of the day. They agreed to work for one denarii. So then when they get paid first, the guys who start in the morning, hey, we're going to get more.
That's not fair.
Well, then when they didn't get it, that's when they're saying it's not fair. But the agreement, they agreed to do that. So the whole point is, I think... In my opinion, though it is hard, especially if I'm a Jew and who has the family members murdered by him, oh my gosh! So I'm not taking away the hardness of this, okay? However, in the light of eternity, should we not rejoice if one sinner, even if it's Satan or Hitler himself, turns to righteousness? Should not all the angels rejoice in heaven when one sinner comes?
Right.
So should we not be the same, even if it is that really bad guy over there?
Yeah, one of the 99, the sheep.
Yeah, man, that's hard.
It is.
I mean, for us who are in the physical, and I mean, okay, let's make it personal.
Yeah.
If one of our loved ones close to us was murdered by somebody in a hate crime, even. I don't know about you, but that would be hard to wish good on them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is that not what Yeshua, he said about the very ones putting him up on the cross, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do.
Yeah.
I mean.
And it reminds me of some of the examples, one in particular, Steve Saint. And back in the late 50s, Nate Saint and two other guys go down. They go down to, I don't know, wherever it is in South America, Central America. Okay. And long story short, they've got guns, and these tribes that have been just brutally murdering each other because revenge is their code. That's how it works. They commit these guys and with their spears. I think it's called end of the spear or tip of the spear. I met the guy and was able to talk to him a little bit. Really? He found out, he was a boy, Steve was, and he found out that ultimately who killed his dad is the guy that's now he calls Grandpa. Really? Minkai, I think is the guy's name. Okay. Those guys had to decide, do I take out a gun and shoot this guy coming at me? And they died. Wow. So to me, there's an eternal perspective where, okay, I'm going to go to that point. Life is important to me, sure, but eternity's more important. That's hard for us to do. Yeah. Deliverance is more important. Well, yeah. And that comes back down to the element of humbling ourselves to trust Him in all circumstances. Yeah, you said something earlier that made me think of desire. I think you used the term desire word. Okay. And no matter what I'm doing, it's like I'm a little child. It says so. in the Word. I'm children. We're children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not teenagers, not adults, not anything else, but children.
Right.
And who's it, Paul or Peter, that says, hey, I wish you were off the milk and eating meat. So my goal at this point has to be to more and more completely and fully and with all of me desire him and to be what he wants me to be, which means my behavior has to change. I have to show the fruit, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
because if it's about anything else, I don't know how I make it there, right? Because as a little toddler, if I fall over, you don't pick them up and spank them because their first step they fell. No,
Right.
you pick them back up and come on, let's go.
Right.
But they're still trying to walk.
Well, and even Yeshua says, unless we become like the little children.
Yeah.
Well, and that's humbling ourselves.
Yeah.
The deliverance, our deliverance depends, I think, on our being humble. I can't imagine, in my finite mind,
Yeah.
imagining him taking the most prideful, arrogant individual and say, here, let me help you out. Because whenever Yeshua himself was the picture of ultimate humility, we have to walk in his shoes,
Right.
and pursue that. And arrogance is, to me, the ultimate picture of Satan. So whenever he sees in us arrogance or rebellion, well, who's he seeing? He's seeing Satan in us.
Yeah.
Whew, I don't want that at all. I don't care. No matter how small it is, we have got to realize if it's a small task, big task, we can wash under the rugs. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Well, if he's telling you to do something, I'm sorry, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
For you. Yeah, and we all have our different little things he's telling us at different times or whatever. And yeah, it may not be written in here, but we know when the Spirit speaks to our heart. All of us do. We do. And if we say no to him, well, he's seeing the image of Satan and not his son.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Well, and on a one-time basis, it's scary. But think about it even from the perspective of, gosh, I'm getting asked over and over again, and I disregard that voice.
How long will he?
How long will he go until it's like,
long?
okay, I'll give you what you want.
That's right. That's right.
And I can still, at the last heartbeat, repent and
I hope.
turn.
Well, and
I
there's
hope.
another thing. Okay,
Yeah.
my spirit will not always contend with man. How many times will he just finally say, okay, fine, you can have your way, and walk away and never come back?
Sure.
I mean, is that even possible? I don't know. One topic I'm looking into, I've been studying it, is the unforgivable sin. Is there only one? Is it rebellion? Is it rejection? Because we look at Pharaoh, and everyone says, well, God hardened his heart. I agree, but the first few times he didn't. And we don't know what happened in his life up to this point. How many times did Yahweh give him opportunity to speak to his heart at different times? We don't know. But we do know there's several times where he did not harden his heart. And then I could just see Yahweh saying, okay, you know what? I just gave you several chances, and you said no. I'm not giving you any more chances.
Right. So I'm giving you allowing you to go into that thing that you want to hang on to so
and I'm
tight.
going to use you as an example for others.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be used as an example like that. Back to our question, how many times does he have to ask or prick our heart until he won't do it again?
Right.
That's a scary thing.
I think of Billy Graham, and I want to say the guy's name's Templeton, the other, like, quote, Billy Graham guy.
Okay.
And they went out as a pair.
Okay.
And, like, these guys are revival preacher guys, out in the streets doing their thing. And, Billy Graham was not the one everybody expected to make it. It was the other guy, this Templeton, if that's his name. And he was, like, eloquent and gifted in scripture and everything. He became an atheist.
Really?
And he died from everything I know, he died from as an atheist.
Wow.
How does that happen?
You're right.
Right? And so you look at that and I think, wow, for a guy like that, that's been through the training, that's got it, if that can happen to him,
But
I got to be careful.
With what you just said, though, the training, that goes back to the pride and arrogance. I think. When I look at what Yeshua did, who did Yeshua confront the most? The
Pharisees
teachers.
and scribes, yeah.
And it's like, and those are the ones who rebelled the hardest because they know they have all the answers. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I've got an example. No names. Number of years ago, different town from where I live now, and I asked the question, wondering if it would sink in. There was one of the guys that was like an elder and a teacher, and he really thought of himself as that way. One time he pulled me out of this how do we even say this carefully? It was a Sunday church, not Baptist, what am I trying to say? Men's Bible study.
Okay.
And it really, I would coin it as more the New Testament reinforcement group.
Okay.
Because we never got out of the New Testament and really
Right.
didn't chew on it. But this guy took me offside at one point and said, "Hey, I'm trying to protect my flock." So the next week I thought, I'm not going to rebuke or refute him. Rebut, that's what I was trying to think of.
Okay.
So I just asked, just in the 6 or 8 of us there, I said, "Hey, I'll just use the word Joe. Hey, Joe, who are the hardest ones to teach when you're out there with the translators in the countries?" He said, "Oh, the teachers were the hardest to teach for sure." And I just looked at him, and I didn't see any glimmer of recognition there.
Right.
But he was pretty emphatic that, I'm sorry, that Hebrew stuff, you're all wet on that. Torah's gone, the law's been done away. All this stuff that it's like, whoa, no, let's wait, let's explore it.
Yeah.
Let me see that you're humble enough to be, oh, hey, you know what? Let me just hear your words.
Right.
I may not have the same opinion,
Mm-hmm.
but it never came there. So yeah, the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody will call me a teacher. So no,
Yeah,
not a
same
teacher,
here.
not a teacher.
I mean, I know I'm going to be judged as one because I
You
teach.
do teachings.
Right. But I don't view myself as a teacher. I'm just, I don't want to have, I know, at our fellowship, everyone knows I call myself, I am just Steve.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know.
And so,
Yeah.
but the thing is, too, that goes into the element with Yeshua, and this is Matthew. He says that, they'll be least and the greatest in the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, but unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees, you won't even enter in.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's going, wait a minute. How we
They're the ones keeping the law.
Right, exactly.
Were they keeping the law?
Not even close.
Oh, man, that's a teaching that you've just done fairly recently, and I would highly encourage you to look at it because it gives you a different way to, one, think about things, and two, approach people that have that mindset.
Yeah.
Do you remember which one it's in?
I think I discussed it in the tutor teaching, I think, maybe. No, there's another one.
No, it's earlier.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't remember.
you should look at all of them.
But the thing is, the whole element is that the church as a whole thinks that the Pharisees, teachers of the law, that they lived the law.
Yeah.
Mark chapter 7, no, they didn't. Matthew 23, Yeshua says again, no, you didn't. They're following the teachings and traditions of men, which is what the church is doing. The church follows what was given to them and to set aside the law, not realizing that is exactly what the Pharisees did. And yet people have the audacity, in my opinion, to call us Pharisees.
Yeah.
When in reality, they're the ones that are the Pharisees.
It's a misunderstanding, and I know we're lumping all of the church together.
Right.
We know there's individuals inside that are getting it, and they're working on trying to bring others to a better understanding.
True,
we're all
true.
on a different point in the journey.
Amen.
But how much do we desire that deliverance from what we didn't know to what
Right.
we should know, and how close can we get to that? Not to work our salvation,
Right.
but because we love Him.
Right. Your works does not produce salvation, but your salvation should produce works.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
think that's a really good point to end on. What do you think?
I agree. The bottom line is the deliverance all starts with humility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you for joining us. We hope and pray it was a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's it.
Okay. Love you.
Love you, brother.
All right.
Shalom.